Hi, guys. Before we get to today's episode, I'd like to encourage you, if you are an entrepreneur or startup founder who would like to network with like-minded entrepreneurs and startups to be able to share best practices, tips, and all kinds of information along the way, I'd love to see you join our community. You can head on over to southernstartups.com/Slack to join. We look forward to seeing you there. Thanks so much. Okay, Aakash, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me here, John.
My pleasure, and thank you so much for being up early. It's 6:49 there in California right now.
That's right.
So you're a true entrepreneur. You're off hustling today.
100%, sir. Yes.
So let's talk a little bit. I always like the audience to know how we connected because it's so wild, the world we live in today. You just get to meet people, especially due to from across in this case, across from coast to coast.
Correct, 100%.
Yeah. But remind me how we connected.
I guess it was probably I was actually looking at a couple of videos of yours on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I literally thought it was pretty intriguing. So I just checked on. I was like, I literally want to get on the bottom of it. So like, hang on, let me just try and get in touch with this guy. And you have your website right there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, right. And then there were also a couple of meetings for like actually established companies whom you actually, guide. And I was like, hang on, I don't care. I'll just anyway, reach out to this guy. It's my chance. So yeah, it's a chance.
I'm really glad you did. We did sort of just a quick, I think it was 20-minute chat, and
yeah, you were kind enough to have that. Seriously.
Oh yeah, no, it's no problem. But I loved doing it because I was really excited by the time I got done about what you're doing with Spotmi, and we're definitely going to get to that and talk about it.
Right.
Share kind of how you're using facial recognition and social media, which are two together just crazy industries.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Being the juggernaut that it is, and AI, machine learning, facial recognition, all that kind of going together. So I can't wait.
It's a hot space right now. Exactly. Yeah.
It is. It's almost like if you have AI in a startup, it's kind of like the old bubble days. You just get funding almost immediately. But
yeah, it's like the catchy thing. Like you just go with someone and like, hang on, I have a AI thing. It's like, hang on, I'm going to fund you right here, right now.
That's so true. It's so true. Well, before we get to that, share with the audience a little bit about your background. Where'd you come from? What's your education, other companies or profession, all that good stuff?
Right. So my education hails back from India. My background is in computer science and engineering. So everything between, hardware and software, I can very well actually take care of that. And at the same time, I've also taken professional business training because, it's like solo founder needs these things and has to have the complementary skills. So yeah, I came to the United States and I took my professional business training in finance and analysis, business economics, positioning, brand management, all that, business stuff, the MBA thing. And alongside that, I have worked in companies like Viber and Skiffer Analytics. So these were in terms of like my background and what I used to do, like how I came up with this. But then also was super interested in computer vision and security. So I also have a research journal published online, which mentions about the security-based systems that work on sporadic, surveillance and computer vision. So that was more fair.
Yeah, so it's wonderful to see. I know you're a solo founder right now and you're thinking about building a team in the future, but it's wonderful. We always see these founders, typically they're either the technical side or the business side. They're not both.
That's correct.
From your perspective, what happened that you realized that you did need to understand both sides of it? Walk us through sort of that thought process and how you got to that point.
Sure. So it's majorly, so what happens, like a lot of people generally start as a technical founder. That's the majority of that because, they can build stuff together and then they want to sell it off to other people. But when your main skills come in, and the time that I realized that, you need this business acumen in you is when you actually go out and sell that thing, because then, it all comes down to like how you sell it, right? It's getting people excited.
Yeah. Lesson number one for the audience. It all comes down to how you sell what you're doing. If you can't sell anything,
exactly.
You don't have a business.
Exactly. I had a friend of mine who I just met. He's also an entrepreneur, and he's more of a technical side. I remember him mentioning that he was doing a deal with a retail, And he just gave his card and he was like, hey, I did this thing, and yeah, just reach me out. And the guy literally was not sold. So he was like, hey, just, can you have the card back? We'll probably talk back later. So it's seriously, these things count a lot, and obviously my dad hails from a business background. So a lot of things I have, like inherited from him. And yeah, that's how I understood, like, hey, you need these two things at the same time, because obviously, like, it's the purpose of the whole thing boils on one thing, like, obviously, as how you sell it. And the next thing is, when you go to people, they really see this thing, that this guy, if this guy is not making sense, it doesn't make sense to just go and grab on what he's trying to do. If he's not going to sell it properly, no one's going to get on this one, right? So
Right.
that was the main pinpoint when I thought of.
That's fantastic. So I'd like to touch on something you mentioned there for a second. You alluded to your father sounds entrepreneurial, and it sounds like that may have been where you got these interests as well. Is
Right.
that a true statement? It's basically
Yeah, that's true statement. Actually, my dad started from scratch. So he actually had two of his businesses, which were quite good, but then it wasn't like so glitter and gold. So he transitioned into a service role where he actually worked for a lot of companies on an executive position. So he was on board of directors and vice
okay.
VPs and stuff like that. So he's in construction. But then I was more of, like the other sort of kid. I was like, hang on, I'm going to come to your board meeting and see what's happening. So, and I had all these CEOs asking, like, what are you going to do when you grow up? I was like, be like you guys. Probably that's it. Flashy suits.
Yeah. So what was it? I mean, let's touch on that. What was it about? You started to go there, I think, with flashy suits you talked about. What was it? I mean, is it where's this drive to be an entrepreneur and a founder yourself? Is it to solve world's problems? Is it to make a lot of money? And no answer is wrong, right? Everybody comes to this
Right.
from a variety of
Yeah,
perspectives.
right.
Cool for you to do this.
So the major thing, obviously, see, everything has an attraction, right? It's not just that, hey, you came up with something and something, you went on for a venture to that. I was actually doing a lot of stuff since I was like 8 years old. Like I started writing code back then. I was writing Logo Basic, and that kept on going for a bit of a while, and it was super cool. And I used to see my dad doing a lot of stuff on his computer, so I used to sit next to him and do certain things. And then I just saw this. I actually was been mature, 15 years of age, and then you start to understand like how things are going in the world. And I was like, hang on, this is like super cool what these people do, but at the same time, you don't understand the responsibilities that come with it.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I just laid it low for a while. I was like, hang on, I mean, this is what I want to be in life. It was just like an immature thing, but then the more I grew up, I came up with different things. Like SpotMe actually was a facial recognition application that could scan people and tell like who they are. That's
Right.
it. And then that thing led on. Then I came up with a similar idea as Magic, the company that's out there right now. And that was there. I did a lot of stuff. I did a lot of blogging. I did a lot of videography. I have like a ton of ads on YouTube. So nothing happened, and that led on to led on me thinking like, hey, I can, and I actually speak. I can sell stuff good. So like, you know what, I really want to do this thing. So the main purpose, the core thing behind it is to actually solve it for a purpose.
Right.
But then these are the things that come with it. But obviously, it's a hard way up there.
Yeah,
Right. So yeah, you got to.
Well, it sounds like you're your typical entrepreneur, though. You've tried lots of different things. I've done that myself.
Right.
Still doing that. You experiment with lots of different things, and those sort of lead you in different paths. And I always tell people, you never know where those are going to lead you. It just kind of goes, and next thing you know,
100%.
here I am. And so SpotMe started out. So what was it? Let's just go ahead there as a chance to talk about what SpotMe does. Give us sort of the 60-second on the idea.
Sure. So SpotMe is a social network that can understand human facial expressions and feelings. So instead of having this whole programmatically stuff that, you just gotta have a mechanical interaction with your phone, you just look at it and it understands like what you feel about someone.
Right. So instead of having to hit a like button or a heart emoji or something like that, the phone is just using the forward-facing camera,
Right.
seeing your face, you smile, it knows that's
You got it, boss. Yes.
having you frown, you cry, all these different things.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely love the idea. So give us the origin story. What got you to this point of, hey, I'm going to build this social network with this facial recognition built in?
hmm Sure. So I was more into social networks since very beginning. I actually jotted down an app way before that was more of an education based stuff and social network, and like Facebook, Facebook and education both together. It was like a pet project for me, but for me and my classmates, that worked out well. So that was the starting of journey for this thing, and then I mentioned that it was a facial scanning application.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea started from there, that what if you could actually see if you can actually scan someone and find them out over the internet, over the ether. It's interesting to see like what they feel about you rather than just hitting like. And that was the era of Instagram being super popular. Right. That was, yeah, they were just they were acquired then, and it was on 2012 to 2014 when they got super popular. So that was my chance, and that was the pain point that I saw. Like, hang on, people actually love sharing, and content sharing is fantastic. So this is the pain point in the industry right now. The content sharing has been awesome, right? So you start from text, then as videos and filters and whatnot. But the social network's heart is in the content interaction. So it's not at what you share, it's what happens when you share. Like what set of comments you're getting, what set of likes and all that. So likes are the driving force that get you back to the application, right? So
Right.
that's the main point. And but what's happening these days is you just get a bunch of likes and you're done. In the case of Spotmi, you actually understand, like when you get a notification, it's pretty interesting to see, like, hang on, I want to see like what this person reacted. I want to see like what's going on right now.
Oh, so do you actually get to see the other person's reaction?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
But
great.
it's the whole platform's gamified, so you got to earn something, you got to share a lot, and then you can understand.
Okay. So
Right.
you've added some gamification to get people
Yes.
used to using it, and that encourages use, which is brilliant. So I didn't
Exactly.
realize that so I would you would get to see that, hey, Jonathan smiled at my post, and I get to actually
Yeah, yeah.
happen.
Yeah,
Um,
that's not happening initially. Like obviously, as I said, gamification. So once you share a lot or you follow certain people, obviously that's when you get that that perk. Like, hang on, you could see these things now.
mhm.
But that's also on a limited basis. Yeah, but we do that. We do that.
And what all emotions are we talking about? Is it mostly smiling and things like that? Or are there other facial expressions?
Yeah, so there we actually employ around 7 facial expressions.
Okay.
And those are meticulous. So there's this whole thing about emotions, but emotions is a superset. I go
I see.
even in detail with it, and we go with the frowning face, the normal poker face. We have smiling, we have laughing, we have the kissing emoji for like millennials these days. That has to be there. Come
Puckered
on.
lips, is that what that is?
Yeah.
How funny. How funny.
Right.
Right? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's very interesting too. How did you select those particular ones? Is it just the software itself and that's what it can recognize? Did you recognize that these are the ones that people do want to or are emoting the most often? Is it a combination of both? How did you get to that set?
Yeah, it's combination of both. So there are certain aspects which you can rule out, like emotion. When I mentioned the emotions as well, right? So certain emotions are the superset, and it's pretty good to actually just take them. But then there are certain things as well that you need to incorporate as a detailed explanation. So I actually saw a lot of people. I did sort of an analysis, like what's going on these days,
Mm-hmm.
and what things are in trend. Like this poker lips thing. It's going crazy, like with this whole, with ladies especially. So yeah,
Of course.
100%. And then comes the smiling or the surprise one, because it's super cool. Like I'll give an example that happened to me yesterday. A friend of mine from my university joined on SpotMe. I had no idea that he was there. Okay, and I just scrolled,
Right.
and I got a notification from him. I literally was shocked, and that was my reaction. He saw that, and he was like, "Hey, what's up?" So that's sort of real life scenario that you get to see, and it feels really good. Like this application being in existence, and I can actually do what I wanted to do in the first place.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm curious if I could ask. I don't want
Mhm.
to put words in your mouth, but I'm just sort of having this thought, and I'll try and
Right.
set it up properly. So for a while now, I've been hearing or feeling like there's been a little bit of a pushback on social media in general, just because it's not helping people create true relationships and interaction.
Mhm.
Right?
Right. Right. Right.
Was there any part of that in the way you built Spot Me, meaning going the other direction? Because I feel like if I get to actually physically see your reaction, instead of a heart emoji, that's a better connection. Is there
Right,
some
right,
part of that deliberately and why you built we haven't talked about this, so I'm just
right.
curious.
Yeah.
That was a thought I had.
No, that's 100% driving force that was behind building Spotmi. In fact, it started with the people's rating app. Like I could actually rate you through stars. That was the first initial idea before even I had facial recognition, employed in this. But then obviously, I literally it makes more sense for you to connect with people who really feel something about you. So you can actually know like, hey, this is happening. If you see these days social media, there are what like 5,000 friends online.
Yeah,
A basic psychology thing says that you cannot remember more than 150 friends
absolutely. Yeah,
and
I mean,
20
the
of your
number
close
differs,
friends.
but I'm totally in agreement with you. I mean, this whole idea of I have 5,000 friends, they're not your friends.
Yeah,
You
right.
can't
They're
manage
not your
all those
friends.
relationships. It's just not
Exactly,
feasible.
exactly. And it doesn't make sense now. If I'm seeing my parents' photo, my friend's photo, I literally would want to share what I feel of whatever they're doing right now, maybe a party or maybe a vacation they're at, right? So
Right.
that could help establish a sense of, like coming together, like the bond. That's
Right.
one thing. And even like we have a lot of features where we're coming up with it. We beta testing it, but we have this feature where we actually, introduce two people having same emotional alignment. So it's more when you make friends out of the blue, it makes sense. Like, hey, this person is like you. You might as well just go
Yeah,
and say
that's
hi to
interesting
them.
too. So is that more of a, hey, he smiled at this type of post, you smiled at the same one.
Mhm.
You must have similar likes and interests, or we think you might. Would you like to connect? Kind of, am I getting
Kind of, yeah, yeah,
okay?
kind of. So we try to understand the emotional intent rather than just the
Emotional
facial
intent.
expression.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, because
absolutely.
you could obviously smile, but it never says, if that smile was sarcastic or you really
Right.
meant it.
That's
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm glad you brought that up because that's also a thought I've been having while we're having this discussion is it's hard to really tell. I mean, that's true. I think that's even more of a case for why something like Spot Me makes sense is because I can put a heart emoji, but it might be because I mean, I've done this before. You're
It's
in a
because of
Slack.
peer pressure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that or the other way around place I'm going is you're in a Slack channel with me through the South Foundation.
Mhm.
We're glad you're there. I'm in another Slack channel with this great group out of the UK called the Content Marketing Academy. Chris Marr runs it.
Uh-huh.
On the podcast before. And
Awesome.
just today, I saw somebody made a post in the Slack channel. I liked what they said. And instead of picking
Mhm.
my own emoji, I just used one that was already there and clicked it. And then there was two instead of one. And so
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm rambling too is,
Mhm.
a heart emoji doesn't necessarily always mean exactly the same thing for every
Right.
person. It's just that this was how I
Right.
decided to like what you say.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
think that's
Yes.
why I love this idea of intent. That's just, that's
No, I'm actually glad you brought it up because that's what we do over here. If you see, a lot of people actually come and say that, hey, there's a lot of facial recognition happening out there, but no one is actually understanding intent, right? If you have these tons of big libraries and people having ton of data and then training models on that, but it all comes down to like really what do you really feel. So it's like our family, or our friends that know us. They know what you do, like or how you feel when you're smiling, when you're having a certain sort of facial expression, and that's what we do. So we work like Siri. It's kind of that. The more you react, the more it tries to understand it, and we still do have a feedback loop mechanism in the application. So if you use it, every time you have another or a new facial expression, it comes on, it pops up and asks you like, "Hey, did you mean this?" Uh,
perfect.
yeah, and
So you're
if it's
validating the intent too, so that you're
exactly,
guessing at it.
exactly, yeah. So we're trying to build robots that help you work on the internet.
Right. So definitely an
It's
AI and machine learning type
yes,
component to it
yes,
too, which is again
yes.
super. I love the combination of the two. Let's talk a little bit, if we could, about sort of where you're at right now. I think you just came into open beta, or maybe not even open, but you're in beta. Just came out into beta recently.
Yeah,
Is that right?
we came out of beta in Jan 2019, this year itself.
Okay. So a couple months.
Yeah, a couple months ago, and then we're acquiring more customers. So far, we have around like 200 users, and it's fantastic. With that, we're launching new features. In fact, we're coming up with this whole thing I mentioned that content interaction has to be better. So even with on top of more emojis or expressions, we're even coming up with more content sharing. More content interaction, I'd say, sort of stuff. So yeah, that's kind of in beta. That's like a new feature that I'm working on. And it just popped up. I was actually having a conversation with a friend. I was like, man, I wish this was there. I'm like, hang on, I could just
I
plug
know
this.
a guy who can program that.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you're also in the fundraising stage.
Yeah, we are fundraising right now. That's right. We are raising up our seed or angel fund, what do we call it? So
Right.
yeah, we are in that stage right now.
And
Right.
you've
Yeah.
just been self-funded to date, a lot of your sweat equity and those kinds of things, which is
Yes.
wonderful.
Yes, sir. Yes.
And so talk to our listeners a little bit about your fundraising process. I mean, what's sort of been the ups and downs of that?
So fundraising, the biggest bubble that that burst for me was the fundraising is easy. Fundraising is not easy, and fundraising takes time. Like I literally read a lot of blogs about this, which mention like if you go for an advice, you get funding, and if you go for funding, you get advice.
Right.
And that's what suddenly is happening. So you need to have this makeshift of your mind, like this is what I want to do, and you really need to have that sort of timeline that if you really want funds at the end of 6 months, start raising right now. Because now is the time.
I'm glad if we could pause there again. The audience knows I love to do this when there's a key point. So if they haven't hit rewind, I'd like them to catch that. Is that 6 months is a great timeline. Are there people who do it faster? Sure, there are.
Yes.
But it's a process. It's a process of identifying the right investors, approaching them, getting their interest, going through due diligence, negotiating. So it's a process. Yes. And so the time to seek funding, I always tell people the best time to seek funding is anytime, meaning you can always be out seeking it. You just don't always have to accept it. It would be great to be in a position where you've got more funding committed than you need. And you can say, I'll hold you for a later round if I can. But I love that mention of 6 months. I think that's great, and the audience needs to know that that's the way it's going to be. And sometimes it lasts even longer, so that's why it's
even longer. Yeah, and the whole key to this thing is your network. The more people you know, in fact, the easier it gets for you to raise funds, because that's how the Silicon Valley works. Like, the more actually, the bigger is it. So this was actually I commented on a friend's post the other day on LinkedIn that the bigger your network is, the better your net worth is.
Absolutely.
And that's how things goes, because it's word of mouth, right? It's funding is about trust. You can just go ahead.
Rounds, but I mean, it is true anywhere, but it is about who you know. I talk a lot about who you know, and
yes,
content I put out. I can think of the example of just by being in the Southbound community. I think you connected with Craig Keenley out of South Carolina. I don't know where that'll go, and it may not go anywhere, but it's all about getting in front of as many people as you can.
Exactly, yes.
And it sounds like in the channel, he was able to provide you some feedback and some things like that.
Oh, well, yeah, that was quite meaningful, yes.
Yeah, well, good. So my point there is not to say that, it's just to reiterate, it's all about your network. And do you feel like other founders, tend to gloss over their own network? Do you feel like that's a true statement?
That does happen, yes. Yeah. That definitely does happen. I've seen
a lot of people tell me, "Well, there's no way I have any investors in my network," and I'm like, "Well, you don't know who
exactly who to reach out to,
who they know."
Yes,
it's about ways to do it.
Exactly. I'll tell you, I was here last year, and I was attending UC Extension, and I met this lady who was a CFA. Now, interestingly, she knew a lot of investors, but I wasn't super aware of this thing, right? I just knew that she has had her pedigree in this investment business, and that's all. A couple of days ago, I met a friend of mine who turns to be an investor, turns to be her friend. So it's all this whole thing. You never know who you're meeting.
Right.
Obviously, at some point in time, the dots will be connected, and you should actually understand. Try and make your responses to as many people as you can. Just expand your network. That's the key to fundraising. You never know who's looking for what business at what time.
Right. Expanding your network. Yeah. That's great advice. Well, I think that's probably a great place to start to wind down. It's a great advice. Yeah. I love the story of how SpotMe has come to life and what it is doing. For folks who are interested in learning more about it, it's a mobile platform, right? An app based platform.
Yes.
On iPhone, I know I've got it on my phone, and then Android as well, I guess.
Yeah, so we're actually working on Android right now.
Okay.
Android is a pretty wide thing. So there are phones ranging from like 30.
iTunes is a great place to start. So it's on iTunes right now. That you can download the app and join the community and check it out.
Yes.
Smile.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Fantastic. You could actually, in fact, go to Spotmi, www.spotmi.app, and that will take you to wherever you need to go.
Okay, spotmi.app. Fantastic.
That's right. That's
Thank you
right.
so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate the time together. I love having you in the community and all the things you bring to it. And we look forward
Yeah,
to
no, it's actually
coming.
great. There are pretty fun people on there. Seriously.
Well, we're definitely trying to grow it. So hopefully more of us sooner rather than later. But again, look forward to hearing about what happens for you in the near future.
Sure. Yes. Please keep your eyes out. Maybe out super soon.